My name is Zeynep Kaya. I'm a research fellow at the Middle East Centre. In some ways, women in Iraqi Kurdistan are better off than women in other parts of Iraq, mainly because of the changes the Kurdistan Regional Government has initiated since the intervention in 2003. But in many other ways, the situation of women in Iraqi Kurdistan is not that different from other Iraqi women. To be more specific in legal terms, there are many laws and rules in the penal code, in Iraqi law, and also in the personal status law that discriminate against women. These rules generally apply to the family law, women's status in marriage, also their rights about divorce and children and their education, so on and so forth. What the Kurdistan Regional Government did is to change some of these laws that discriminate against women. Not all of them, but some of them. It also abolished some of them. So because of that, we could say that women, in legal terms, at least on the paper, have more rights compared to other women in other parts of Iraq. So these laws basically apply in the Kurdistan region. But this doesn't mean that these rules are implemented perfectly, or their implementation is not monitored effectively. It's because of Iraqi Kurdistan's relative safety since 2003, while sectarian conflict was very violent in other parts of Iraq. The Kurdistan region benefited from relative safety, security, also economic boom. And this wider social economic context actually also affected women's status. Less women were exposed to violent, conflict-related violence, for instance. So that's a factor. But before 2003, especially in the context of the conflict between Baghdad regime and Kurds that has been ongoing since 1960s, led the Kurdish region to be in relative deprivation. Also to be a conflict context. Iran-Iraq war is another important factor here. In addition to that relative conflict context that didn't necessarily affect the rest of Iraq that much, the Baghdad regime deliberately pursued policies of deprivation in health services, educational services, and economic and infrastructural investment. So these also led the society, not only women, also men, to have lower levels of education attainment and employment, which obviously affected women's status as well in Iraq. So the wider context that shapes is the Kurdistan region's desire, which is a long-term desire for independence. And Kurdistan region has been closely linked to the Western states and multilateral organizations, particularly because of the 1991 and 2003 interventions, which gradually increased Kurdish self-rule in Iraq vis-a-vis the Baghdad government. In increasing their international legitimacy and credibility, they adopt international norms that Western states use and have, like democratization or gender equality. So incorporating these norms may be one way of increasing their legitimacy and might be providing the context for the legislative changes.